The alien queen was shocked when her human husband revealed his real strength. Traders, soldiers, and diplomats hurried through the streets, but no one moved faster than the excitement in the air. Today was not just another day in the Andromeda Empire. It was a day that would be remembered for generations. Today, the alien queen, Zyra, was to be married to a human named Elias. Elias walked carefully along the ceremonial path, the soft hum of alien energy crystals lighting his way. His heart beat faster than it had since he first stepped on this distant world. He had been trained in diplomacy, in survival, and in negotiation, but nothing had prepared him for the strange mix of fear and pride he felt at being the human chosen to unite his species with one of the most powerful alien civilizations in the galaxy. The people of Andromeda had heard stories about humans. To them, humans were fragile, untrained, and surprisingly small compared to the towering alien races of the Empire. Yet, despite their doubts, humans had a reputation for courage and for thinking in ways that aliens could not always understand. And Elias intended to show them that he was no ordinary human. The palace gates opened wide, and Elias entered the grand courtyard. The marble floors reflected the sunlight, and towering crystal pillars shimmered like stars. Aliens of all shapes and sizes filled the space. Some had scales, others had feathers, some had limbs that twisted in ways humans could barely comprehend. Yet all eyes were on the center where Queen Zyra stood, regal and imposing. Her skin glowed softly, and her eyes, a deep shade of violet, reflected both curiosity and amusement. Zyra had always been a strong ruler. She had led battles, negotiated treaties, and faced threats that could have destroyed lesser leaders. To her people, she was not just a queen, she was a legend. Yet today, as she looked at Elias, she felt something new, a spark of genuine curiosity. Humans were unpredictable. They thought differently, and perhaps, just perhaps, one of them could surprise her. The ceremony began with music unlike anything Elias had ever heard. It was not simply a melody. It was a symphony of living sound, with notes that danced in the air like glowing threads. Aliens moved gracefully to it, and Elias did his best to keep pace, awkward in his human body but determined not to appear clumsy. As he approached Zyra, he bowed deeply, keeping his hands visible in a gesture of respect. "Your Majesty," he said, his voice steady despite the nerves twisting in his stomach, "it is an honor to stand beside you today." Zyra's expression softened, and she inclined her head. "The honor is mine, Elias. Humans are small, yes. But perhaps size is not the only measure of strength." Elias smiled. "I hope to prove that, Your Majesty." The officiator, a tall alien with translucent skin that revealed a network of glowing veins, began the ritual. Words flowed in a language Elias did not understand, yet the rhythm and cadence carried a sense of gravity and importance. He focused on the meaning behind the ceremony: unity, trust, and mutual respect. As the ceremony continued, Elias noticed the subtle glances from the alien courtiers. Some whispered, others frowned, but all were watching him closely. He could feel their skepticism. They expected a weak human, someone who could not withstand the challenges of their empire. Elias held himself taller. He would not just meet their expectations, he would exceed them. When it came time to exchange vows, Elias took a deep breath. He looked into Zyra's eyes, finding the mix of power and curiosity that had drawn him to her. "I promise to stand with you, to protect you, and to honor the bond between our people," he said, each word chosen with care. "Though I am human, I will not falter, for my strength is not only in my body but in my mind, my courage, and my will to protect those I love." A murmur ran through the crowd. It was rare for a human to speak with such confidence in a place where alien strength and prowess were considered the only measures of ability. Zyra's eyes widened slightly, not with fear, but with interest. She was beginning to see that perhaps she had underestimated humans entirely. Zyra's turn came, and her voice, clear and commanding, echoed through the courtyard. "I accept your vow, Elias. Together, we will face the challenges of the galaxy. Let our unity be a symbol that strength is not defined by size or form, but by heart, mind, and spirit." The officiator raised a glowing staff, and a wave of energy spread across the courtyard, sealing their vows in a shimmering field of light. Cheers erupted from the crowd, though some aliens still exchanged skeptical glances. Elias smiled, knowing the real test would come later, but for now they had made history. After the ceremony, the reception began in a massive hall filled with tables of exotic foods, colorful lights, and flowing energy displays. Humans and aliens mingled carefully, some curious, others wary. Elias moved among the guests, speaking politely, shaking hands or claws, and learning their customs. Despite his initial nervousness, he found himself enjoying the experience. Zyra watched him from a distance, a mixture of amusement and admiration on her face. Here was a human, small and seemingly fragile, navigating an alien world with a confidence and charm that was rare even among her own species. He smiled at her across the room, and she felt a warmth she could not explain. As the evening progressed, a series of traditional games were introduced. Aliens competed in tests of strength, endurance, and speed. Elias watched quietly, noting the patterns, the rules, and the strategies. When it was his turn, whispers spread through the crowd. How could a human compete with creatures who had evolved to be far stronger and faster? Elias stepped forward with calm determination. The first game involved lifting enormous crystal weights. He approached it not with brute force, but with careful technique, using balance and leverage in ways the aliens had not anticipated. The crowd gasped as the human lifted the weight with surprising ease, holding it steady while others struggled. Zyra's eyes widened. She had seen humans do many things, but she had never seen such calculated strength in action. The next game tested endurance and agility. Elias moved with unexpected speed, dodging and weaving through obstacles with a mixture of instinct and planning. Every move was precise, every decision made with thought and foresight. The alien crowd whispered in astonishment. A human was not only surviving their trials but excelling. By the end of the night, Elias had earned the admiration of many, the respect of some, and the curiosity of all. Zyra approached him, her expression both serious and playful. "I must admit," she said, her voice carrying just enough amusement to make him smile, "I expected a weak human, but you are different. I wonder what other surprises you might hold." Elias bowed slightly. "Perhaps, Your Majesty, the galaxy is full of surprises. And perhaps humans are better at them than anyone suspects." The Queen laughed, a sound that resonated like a bell through the hall. "Then I look forward to discovering them with you." As the guests began to leave and the palace settled into a quiet evening, Elias and Zyra stood together on a balcony overlooking the city. The twin suns were setting, casting long shadows over the crystal towers. In that moment, there was peace, beauty, and the promise of something extraordinary. Neither of them knew what the future held, but both felt the spark of possibility. In a galaxy that underestimated humans at every turn, Elias had already begun to prove that strength came in many forms. And Queen Zyra, powerful and wise as she was, could not help but feel excitement for the first time in years, for what her human husband might truly be capable of. The night ended with stars twinkling above, the sounds of the city below, and the quiet certainty that history had just been made. A human and an alien queen, united not only in marriage but in mutual respect, had shown that courage, intelligence, and determination could bridge worlds and species. And in the heart of it all, Elias smiled, ready for the challenges to come, knowing that humans had only just begun to reveal their true strength. The morning after the grand wedding, the palace of Andromeda hummed with activity. Aliens moved quickly along the corridors, carrying messages, supplies, and preparations for the queen's first public appearance with her human husband, Elias. Rumors had already begun to spread among the court about the human, who had lifted crystal weights and outmaneuvered aliens in ceremonial games. Some were impressed, others were skeptical. Elias walked beside Queen Zyra through the vast halls, taking in the architecture and the alien customs. His senses were alive with new experiences: the shimmering walls, the hum of energy crystals, the strange, fragrant scents of alien flora displayed along the corridors. Though he had been trained to adapt to alien environments, nothing truly prepared him for the sheer scale of the imperial palace. Zyra looked at him with a mixture of pride and curiosity. "You handled yesterday's games well," she said, her violet eyes studying him. "But strength is not always shown in ceremonies, Elias. Sometimes the galaxy tests us in ways we cannot anticipate." Elias nodded. "I am ready, Your Majesty. Humans have learned to face challenges they cannot predict. Adaptation is our greatest strength." The queen smiled faintly. "We shall see if that holds true today." Their walk was interrupted by a sudden alarm, a loud, piercing signal that reverberated through the palace. Aliens and humans alike froze. The holographic screens along the walls flickered to life, displaying chaotic images. A rival faction of the Empire's enemies had breached the palace's outer defenses. They moved quickly, intending to capture the queen and disrupt the fragile peace between the species. The palace erupted into controlled chaos. Guards and soldiers raced into position, alien warriors unsheathing curved weapons that shimmered with energy. Elias instinctively assessed the situation. Humans were often underestimated in battle because they relied on creativity, quick thinking, and teamwork rather than sheer strength. This was the moment to prove that. "Stay close," Zyra ordered, her voice steady but commanding. "We cannot let them reach the inner hall. Move." Elias followed, eyes scanning for the attackers' patterns. He noticed immediately that their approach was direct but predictable. Alien warriors were trained to overpower their opponents, relying on speed and strength. Humans, however, excelled in improvisation. Elias quickly formulated a plan. As they reached the first corridor, two attackers charged at them. The guards raised their weapons, but Elias stepped forward. Using his body's leverage, he pushed a heavy energy pillar into the path of the intruders. The pillar toppled, blocking the corridor and slowing their advance. The aliens watching from the sidelines gasped. Humans were not supposed to move so strategically in battle. Zyra raised an eyebrow. "Impressive," she whispered, her voice a mixture of surprise and admiration. "You are thinking like a warrior, Elias, not like a human who fears combat." Elias nodded, not breaking his focus. He led the queen down a side corridor, using knowledge of human tactics, flanking, distraction, and anticipation, to stay ahead of the attackers. Guards followed, inspired by his quick thinking. Even seasoned alien warriors seemed momentarily confused, struggling to counter the humans' unconventional maneuvers. They reached the grand hall, where a larger group of intruders had gathered. The queen's guards positioned themselves at the entrance, forming a barrier of energy shields. But the attackers were numerous, and their energy weapons were far more powerful than anything humans normally faced. Elias studied the hall. He saw a suspended network of cables overhead, feeding power into the palace's security system. With careful timing, he climbed a support beam, leapt onto the network, and severed key cables. Sparks flew as the intruders' energy weapons short-circuited. Confused and disoriented, the attackers faltered. Zyra's eyes widened in astonishment. "You are stronger than you appear," she said, her voice rising over the chaos. "But strength is more than physical. You are clever, fast, adaptable. These are traits our warriors often lack." Elias smiled briefly, keeping his focus. "Thank you, Your Majesty. Humans learn quickly because we must. Survival depends on it." As the intruders regrouped, Elias led the queen through a hidden exit known only to a few high-ranking palace officials. They moved silently through narrow passages, emerging on a balcony overlooking the outer gardens. The attackers had not expected this escape route, giving them a crucial advantage. Below, the palace guards launched a counterattack, using precise energy blasts to drive back the intruders. Elias assessed the situation from above. He knew that relying solely on the guards would not be enough. More strategy was needed. He grabbed a stack of large ornamental stones and, using carefully aimed throws, created obstacles that slowed the advancing attackers. The combination of human ingenuity and calculated action forced the intruders to retreat. Finally, the attackers withdrew completely, unable to breach the queen's security. The palace returned to a tense calm. Guards and soldiers looked at Elias with newfound respect. Aliens whispered among themselves, some still skeptical, but many impressed by the human who had outsmarted and outmaneuvered them. Zyra turned to Elias, her violet eyes gleaming with both pride and amazement. "You have done what even our strongest warriors could not," she said. "You protected me, not with sheer power alone, but with skill, foresight, and courage. I underestimated you, Elias." Elias bowed his head slightly. "It is my duty to protect you, Your Majesty." Strength comes in many forms, and humans have learned that thinking quickly can save more lives than raw power alone. The queen walked beside him, her hand brushing his lightly in a gesture of trust. "You have shown me that humans are more than I imagined. Perhaps it is time for our species to truly understand one another." As the day progressed, word of Elias' actions spread throughout the palace. Aliens who had doubted humans now whispered with respect and curiosity. Guards sought his advice, other diplomats studied his tactics, and even rival factions began to reconsider how they viewed the human species. For Elias, the events of the day were a reminder of why humans survived where others might fail. Adaptability, courage, and intelligence could outweigh size and brute strength. But more than that, he realized that alliances were built on trust, and the queen's trust in him was now stronger than ever. Zyra observed him quietly during the evening feast. The other guests were entertained by stories of heroism and bravery, but she paid attention to the subtle ways Elias moved, the calm in his eyes, and the way he seemed to think 10 steps ahead. He was a human, yes, small and seemingly fragile, yet in his mind and spirit, he was a force that could change the course of battles and alliances alike. "You are remarkable," she whispered as they stepped onto a balcony to watch the twin suns set. "I always believed strength was measured by muscle and weaponry. Today, you taught me it is also measured by mind, courage, and heart." Elias looked at her, feeling a quiet pride. "Humans are often underestimated, Your Majesty. But we have learned to survive in harsh worlds, to adapt, to think quickly. These are our true strengths." Zyra nodded thoughtfully. "Then perhaps it is time that others see humans not as weak allies, but as equals, capable of changing the fate of empires." As night fell over the palace, the city lights shimmering below, Elias and Zyra stood together, united not only by marriage but by shared respect and admiration. The first challenge had tested them both, revealing strengths that went far beyond physical power. And though the galaxy was full of dangers and surprises, Elias had proven that humans were a force to be reckoned with. In the quiet of the evening, Zyra realized that she had married not just a human, but a partner whose mind and courage could rival the greatest warriors of Andromeda. And for Elias, the day had shown that the galaxy underestimated humans at its own risk. The palace was safe for now, but both of them knew that this was only the beginning. The universe was vast, full of challenges that no one could predict. And with Elia's strength, human ingenuity, courage, and adaptability, alongside the Queen's power, there was no force in the galaxy that could easily defeat them. Tonight, they had survived the first test. And tomorrow, the true adventures would begin. The morning after the palace attack was unusually quiet. The twin suns of Andromeda cast long, golden rays across the crystal towers, and the soft hum of energy crystals filled the halls. The palace had returned to normal, but neither Queen Zyra nor Elias could forget the events of the previous day. Zyra walked through her private gardens, her mind racing. She had seen humans act in ways that defied the expectations of the Empire. Elias had not only protected her but had done so with creativity, foresight, and courage. Her advisors spoke in hushed tones about the human's cleverness, but she wanted to understand it herself. Humans were unpredictable. Humans were dangerous, not because they were violent, but because they were capable of thinking in ways the galaxy had not yet seen. Elias approached her quietly, careful not to startle the queen. "You look troubled," he said gently. Zyra turned, her violet eyes sharp yet curious. "I am not troubled, I am intrigued. Humans are said to be small, fragile, and untrained. Yet yesterday you acted like a warrior, a strategist, and something beyond even that. Tell me, Elias, what is it about humans that makes you so capable?" Elias smiled softly. "Perhaps I can explain, Your Majesty. Humans have learned to survive in harsh conditions, in worlds where the odds are against them. We do not always have strength or size, but we have adaptability. We have creativity. We think quickly, make decisions under pressure, and use what we have in ways that others cannot predict." Zyra raised an eyebrow. "So it is not physical strength that matters?" "Not entirely," Elias replied. "Strength is important, but intelligence, courage, and teamwork are just as powerful. Humans survive because we use every tool available, every advantage we can find, and because we never give up, even when the odds are against us." The queen studied him, trying to see the mind behind the calm expression. Elias continued, stepping closer. "Let me show you something, Your Majesty, something that may help you understand humans better." He led her to a small chamber filled with holoscreens. On them, simulations of human survival scenarios played, some set on harsh planets, others on battlefields, and some even in urban environments. The simulations showed humans using strategy, improvisation, and quick thinking to overcome challenges that seemed impossible. Zyra watched, fascinated. In one simulation, a small human team outmaneuvered a group of heavily armed soldiers by using terrain, creating distractions, and working together in perfect coordination. In another, a single human managed to repair a failing energy generator in the middle of a storm, saving hundreds of lives. "These are humans at their best," Elias explained. "We are not the strongest, not the fastest, but we make up for it with ingenuity, courage, and determination. What the galaxy sees as weakness is often our greatest strength." Zyra was silent for a moment, absorbing the information. She had fought countless battles and commanded fleets of warriors, yet she had never encountered a species capable of turning disadvantage into advantage with such skill. Elias was not boasting. The simulations were evidence. Humans were adaptable, and that adaptability made them unpredictable and powerful. "You make it sound simple," Zyra said finally, her voice thoughtful. "But yesterday you acted instinctively without preparation. How did you know what to do?" Elias' eyes twinkled. "Experience, observation, and understanding. Humans learn quickly. We notice patterns, we anticipate outcomes, and we take calculated risks. Sometimes instincts guide us, but they are always supported by knowledge and planning. That is why I was able to protect you and the palace yesterday. Not because I am stronger than your warriors, but because I used my mind and my understanding of the situation." Zyra nodded slowly. "I see. You are not just a human. You are something more. Perhaps humans have been underestimated for too long." Elias smiled, sensing her growing respect. "We have, but that is what allows us to surprise the galaxy. The moment others think we are weak is the moment we show them our true strength." The queen walked closer, her expression a mix of admiration and curiosity. Then teach me, Elias. Show me how humans think, how they plan, how they turn disadvantage into advantage. I want to understand, not just for the sake of the empire, but for us, our future together. Elias nodded, pleased by her interest. Very well, Your Majesty. Let us begin. He led her to a training room, simple by Andromeda standards but filled with equipment and obstacles designed to test skill, intelligence, and adaptability. He explained that humans often trained in multiple disciplines at once: combat, strategy, problem-solving, and teamwork. Every exercise had a purpose, and every challenge taught lessons that could be applied in real life. Zyra observed as Elias demonstrated. He moved through a simulated combat scenario, not relying on strength, but on speed, timing, and strategy. He used the environment to his advantage, creating barriers and traps, distracting opponents and predicting movements. Each action flowed logically yet creatively, catching the observers off guard. Notice, Elias said, how each move is connected. I do not act randomly. I assess, plan, and then act quickly. Humans survive because we combine thought with action. Zyra tried a simulation herself. At first, she relied on her usual instincts: strength, speed, and aggression, but quickly realized that the human approach was different. She needed to think ahead, predict the environment, and anticipate opponents' actions. With Elias guiding her, she began to succeed, and the queen felt a thrill she had not experienced in years. The joy of learning something entirely new, a skill that could give her an advantage even over her own species. Impressive, she admitted. Humans are more complex than I imagined. I thought strength alone could determine victory, but now I see it is only one part of the equation. Elias nodded. Exactly, and humans are relentless. We do not stop, even when faced with overwhelming odds. That determination, combined with our ability to adapt, makes us formidable. The lessons continued through the day. Elias demonstrated problem-solving under pressure, creative thinking in chaotic situations, and the power of collaboration. Zyra found herself fascinated. Every action, every decision had a purpose and a strategy behind it. Humans did not rely solely on physical power. They relied on intelligence, observation, and teamwork. By the evening, the queen was exhausted but exhilarated. She sat beside Elias in the quiet of her private garden, watching the twin suns set once again. "You have shown me a new way of seeing strength," she said softly. "I underestimated your species. I underestimated you. Humans are remarkable." Elias smiled, humbled by her words. "We often are underestimated. That is why we survive. That is why we endure. And that is why, when given the chance, humans can accomplish things that others believe impossible." Zyra leaned back, her violet eyes thoughtful. "Then I trust that together we can face any challenge. Your strength combined with the Empire's power could change the balance of the galaxy." Elias reached out and took her hand, a simple gesture that conveyed trust, respect, and partnership. "Together, Your Majesty, there is no challenge we cannot face. Humans are small, yes, but we are determined. We are clever, and we never give up." The queen nodded, feeling a sense of reassurance she had rarely experienced. For centuries, the Andromeda Empire had relied on physical power and advanced technology to maintain control. Yet here was a human, a single man, showing her that intellect, courage, and adaptability could achieve victories that brute strength could not. "Perhaps it is time for our people to truly understand one another," she said finally. "The galaxy underestimates humans at its own risk, and now I see why." Elias looked at her, quietly proud but careful not to boast. "Humans do not seek praise, Your Majesty. We seek opportunity. When given the chance, we rise to it in ways that are often unexpected." As night fell over the palace, the stars sparkling like distant diamonds, both Elias and Zyra felt a new bond forming between them. It was not just the bond of marriage, but of mutual understanding and respect. The Queen had begun to see the truth about humans, their hidden strengths, their courage, and their relentless determination. And Elias knew that, with her support and trust, the real adventures were only just beginning. For the first time, Zyra felt a spark of excitement about the future. She had married a human, small in size but immense in capability. And in Elias, she saw not only a husband but a partner whose mind and spirit could challenge the galaxy in ways even the greatest warriors had never imagined. And Elias, standing beside her under the twin suns, knew that the real strength of humanity was no longer a secret. It was a promise, to the Queen, to the Empire, and to the galaxy itself, that humans were capable of greatness beyond measure. The morning sky over the Andromeda Empire was unusually still, yet an unspoken tension filled the air. The palace had returned to normal after the previous day's small-scale attack, but something felt different. Scouts reported unusual activity near the Empire's borders. Reports came in quickly. A large fleet of hostile ships was approaching at speeds faster than any the Empire had seen. Queen Zyra's violet eyes narrowed as she studied the incoming data. "They are not here for negotiation," she said grimly. "They intend to conquer, not communicate. This is no small raid. They are planning a full-scale invasion." Elias stood beside her, calm but alert. "Then we prepare, Your Majesty. Humans have survived worse odds. Strategy, adaptability, and quick thinking will give us an advantage even against overwhelming forces." The Queen regarded him with admiration. "You speak as if you have faced such an invasion before." Elias shook his head. "Not exactly. But humans have a way of surviving impossible situations. We think differently, use what is available, and adapt faster than most species expect. That is how we endure and win." The palace erupted into action. Aliens and humans worked side by side, preparing defenses, activating shields, and mobilizing troops. Zyra's fleet commanders were anxious. Their forces were strong, but the invading armada outnumbered them. Elias observed the strategies being discussed. Many relied on conventional tactics, overwhelming force, frontal attacks, and brute strength. Elias knew that these alone would not suffice. He stepped forward. "Your Majesty, allow me to propose an alternative strategy." Zyra raised an eyebrow. "Go on." Elias outlined a plan that relied on surprise, environmental advantage, and human ingenuity. He suggested splitting forces to create distractions, using the palace's energy systems to disrupt the enemy's weapons, and employing small, mobile units to sabotage their ships. It was unconventional and some commanders frowned at the idea, but Zyra trusted Elia's judgment. "You have my permission," she said firmly. "Execute your plan. I trust your instincts." The human moved quickly. He divided the human and alien forces into teams, assigning roles based on individual strengths. Some teams would create decoys, drawing the enemy away from the palace, while others would infiltrate the invaders' ships to disable critical systems. Humans, with their agility and adaptability, were paired with alien warriors to maximize effectiveness. As the fleet of hostile ships entered orbit, alarms blared throughout the Empire. Bright energy blasts lit the sky as the invaders attacked the outer defenses. Many of the palace's energy shields were strained under the assault. Human soldiers, trained under Elia's guidance, moved with precision and coordination, setting traps and creating unexpected obstacles. The invaders were caught off guard by tactics they had never encountered. Elias led a small strike team toward one of the larger enemy ships. The vessel's hull was heavily armored, and its crew was trained for direct combat. Yet Elias and his team used speed, clever maneuvers, and human ingenuity to infiltrate the ship's systems. With careful calculation, they disabled the ship's navigation and weapons, sending it spinning harmlessly into the void. Back on the palace grounds, Zyra watched with amazement. A single human team and they disable one of their strongest ships. Incredible. Humans truly think differently. Meanwhile, Elias coordinated multiple teams across the battlefield. Each group executed tactics that combined human creativity with alien strength. One group used the palace's energy conduits to create blinding flashes that disoriented the enemy. Another group used rapid strikes and feints, confusing the invaders' ranks. Every action was precise, planned, and unexpected. The invaders, who had anticipated an easy conquest, were thrown into chaos. Their numerical advantage meant little against a strategy that leveraged intelligence, surprise, and adaptability. Human soldiers, small but quick, moved through gaps that larger aliens could not navigate. They sabotaged energy systems, set traps, and communicated in ways that outpaced the enemy. Zyra's confidence in Elias grew with every passing moment. "You are more than a strategist," she whispered to herself. "You are a force multiplier." Humans are underestimated at their own peril. As the battle reached its peak, the invading commanders realized they were losing control. The invaders' ships began colliding, weapons misfired, and communication lines broke down. What seemed like an overwhelming force was crumbling under a combination of unexpected tactics and relentless determination. Elias moved to the front lines, coordinating the final phase of the plan. Using a combination of decoy units and precision strikes, he forced the enemy fleet into a narrow asteroid field. The terrain worked against the invaders, and several ships were disabled or destroyed as they collided with the natural obstacles. The battle ended as suddenly as it had begun. The invading fleet, now scattered and damaged, retreated into space. The palace and the city had survived, largely because of human ingenuity and courage. Guards and soldiers cheered, both human and alien, celebrating their hard-won victory. Zyra walked to Elias, her violet eyes shining with respect and admiration. "You have done what even the greatest warriors of Andromeda could not. You saved this palace, this empire, and countless lives. You are remarkable." Elias bowed slightly. "It was not just me, Your Majesty. Humans can survive impossible odds, yes, but victory comes through teamwork, courage, and adaptability. Today, humans and aliens worked together, and that made all the difference." The Queen smiled. "You have proven that strength is not only physical. You have shown me that courage, intelligence, and adaptability can defeat even the strongest foes. I underestimated humans, and I will not make that mistake again." As the palace celebrated, Elias took a moment to reflect. Humans had survived against impossible odds for millennia. Their strength was not in raw power, but in thinking differently, in using their minds and ingenuity to overcome challenges that others believed insurmountable. Today had proven that lesson once more, on a scale larger than he had ever imagined. Zyra joined him on a balcony overlooking the city. The twin suns were setting, painting the sky in hues of gold and violet. "I see it now," she said softly. "You are not weak, and humans are not weak. There is a power in thought, in courage, in determination that even the strongest warriors cannot match." Elias smiled. "Humans have always known this, Your Majesty. The galaxy is full of challenges, but we adapt, we endure, and we never give up." The Queen took his hand, a gesture of trust, respect, and admiration. "Then together we are unstoppable. The Empire underestimated humans, but I will make sure they, and the galaxy, never do so again." The night fell over the palace, quiet but filled with a sense of accomplishment. The first invasion had been repelled, thanks to human ingenuity and courage. But both Elias and Zyra knew that the galaxy was vast, full of dangers and challenges far greater than a single attack. The experience had taught them both an important lesson. True strength came in many forms, and humans, often underestimated, possessed a power that could change the course of history. As the stars twinkled above, Elias looked at Zyra. "This is only the beginning, Your Majesty. The galaxy will test us again in ways we cannot imagine, but humans are ready and so am I." Zyra nodded, her expression resolute. "Then we will face it together. Your strength, human ingenuity, and our empire's might. No one can stand against us." In that moment, both of them felt the quiet certainty that they had survived the greatest test yet, and that together, they could face whatever challenges the universe had in store. Humanity's true strength had been revealed, and it was only the beginning of a story that would reshape the galaxy. The Andromeda Empire had survived the invasion, but the echoes of the battle still resonated throughout the crystal towers of the palace. Queen Zyra moved through the halls with a sense of renewed purpose. Her people were safe, the city had endured, and the invaders had been repelled. Yet the victory was not just hers, it belonged to Elias, the human who had changed the way everyone saw strength. Elias stood in the training courtyard, watching the palace guards refine their tactics. Even after the chaos of battle, he remained calm and focused, a human habit born of years of adaptation and preparation. His eyes scanned the soldiers as they practiced maneuvers he had taught them, assessing their movements, anticipating potential weaknesses, and offering guidance. Humans thrived on problem solving, and Elias was proving it on a scale the galaxy had never seen. Zyra approached him quietly. "You have changed everything, Elias," she said softly. Her violet eyes reflected admiration and pride. "Not just for me, but for the entire empire. You have shown us that strength is not only measured in muscles or weapons, but in courage, intelligence, and determination." Elias nodded. "Humans have always known this, Your Majesty. The galaxy may have underestimated us, but we endure because we adapt. We think differently, act quickly, and never give up, even against impossible odds." The Queen smiled faintly. "Then perhaps it is time for the Empire to recognize the true value of humans." Elias glanced toward the council chamber, where alien leaders and military commanders were gathering to discuss the aftermath of the invasion. "They are already learning," he said. "Actions speak louder than words." Zyra led him to the council chamber, where discussions were underway. The alien leaders spoke in measured tones, analyzing the invasion and how it had been repelled. Many were reluctant to credit a human for the victory, yet the evidence was undeniable. Strategic points had been defended, enemy ships disabled, and the palace had remained secure, all thanks to human ingenuity and leadership. Elias stepped forward, addressing the council with calm authority. "The humans who fought alongside your warriors did not rely on brute force. We used observation, strategy, and teamwork to counter an overwhelming threat. The enemy underestimated humans, and that cost them everything." A murmur ran through the chamber. Some leaders nodded in agreement, others exchanged skeptical glances. Yet none could deny the results. The humans' role had been pivotal, and the evidence of the invaders' defeat was clear. Queen Zyra spoke next, her voice commanding the attention of all present. "Elias has demonstrated that strength is more than physical power. Human courage, adaptability, and intelligence have saved this palace and countless lives. It is time to acknowledge the value humans bring to this empire." The council remained silent for a moment. Then, one by one, leaders began to nod in agreement. Respect for humans had grown, and the idea that they were weak or insignificant was beginning to fade. Humans were no longer just allies. They were proven partners, capable of shaping the fate of entire civilizations. As the meeting ended, Zyra and Elias walked together through the palace gardens. The twin suns of Andromeda were setting, casting long shadows across the crystal paths. Flowers glowed softly in the fading light, their bioluminescent colors reflecting the calm after the storm. "Do you realize what you have done, Elias?" Zyra asked quietly. "You have changed how an entire empire views your species. Humans are no longer underestimated. They are respected and feared in the right way." Elias smiled humbly. It is not about fear, Your Majesty. It is about understanding. Humans survive because we think, adapt, and endure. If others recognize that, they can choose to respect us or face the consequences of underestimating us. The queen laughed softly, a sound that carried relief, pride, and admiration. You are unlike anyone I have ever met. Strong, clever, and unyielding. I underestimated you once, and I will not make that mistake again. Elias took her hand, a gesture of partnership, trust, and shared purpose. And together, we can face any challenge the galaxy sends our way. Humans are adaptable, yes, but we are strongest when we work with others we respect and trust, like you, Your Majesty. In the days that followed, the Empire began to implement new strategies inspired by human thinking. Patrols were reorganized, defense protocols updated, and training programs developed to teach aliens the human approach to problem-solving and adaptability. Even the Council recognized that brute force alone was no longer sufficient in a galaxy full of unpredictable threats. Zyra observed these changes with quiet satisfaction. Humans had proven their worth, and Elias had become a symbol of that achievement. He was no longer just her husband. He was a hero, a strategist, and a reminder that true strength came in many forms. One evening, the Queen and Elias stood on a balcony overlooking the city. The streets were alive with celebration, the citizens cheering for the Empire's survival. Humans and aliens worked side by side, a visible sign of unity and mutual respect. You have done more than I imagined, Zyra said softly. The galaxy may never forget what humans can do. Elias looked at her, determination in his eyes. It is only the beginning, Your Majesty. Humans will continue to surprise, adapt, and endure. And as long as we work together, there is nothing we cannot face. The Queen nodded, feeling a deep sense of pride and hope. She had married a human, yes, but she had also gained a partner whose mind and courage could change the course of history. Humans were no longer the underestimated species. They were powerful in ways the galaxy had never imagined. Over the next weeks, ambassadors from neighboring systems arrived, curious about the events that had unfolded. They had heard whispers of the human who had defended the palace and outsmarted the invaders. They came to see for themselves, some skeptical, others intrigued. Elias welcomed them, speaking with calm authority and demonstrating the principles of human adaptability, problem-solving, and courage. By the end of these encounters, even the most skeptical leaders were convinced. Humans were no longer seen as weak or insignificant. They were allies to respect, capable of turning the tide of battles, and partners who could think beyond conventional limits. Zyra watched Elias interact with the alien diplomats, her admiration growing with every word and gesture. You are remarkable, she whispered to herself. The galaxy has underestimated humans for too long, but now they will see. Elias returned her gaze, a quiet confidence in his expression. Humans have always known our own strength. The challenge was helping others see it. Today, they finally do. The celebration continued, but for Elias and Zyra, the true victory was deeper than applause or recognition. It was the understanding that humans were capable of greatness, and that together they could face anything. One evening, as the stars sparkled above, Elias and Zyra walked through the gardens in silence. The twin suns had set, leaving a sky full of shimmering constellations. The air was calm, carrying the faint hum of energy crystals throughout the palace. Do you think the galaxy is ready for this? Zyra asked quietly. To see humans as equals, as partners, and as a force to be reckoned with, Elias nodded. Perhaps not entirely, but they will learn. Humans are resilient. We endure, adapt, and grow stronger with every challenge. And now we have the Empire beside us. The Queen smiled, squeezing his hand gently. Then let us face the future together, humans and aliens side by side, ready for whatever comes next. Elias looked out at the horizon, determination shining in his eyes. Whatever the universe throws at us, we will rise. Humans have proven it before, and we will prove it again. Together, there is no force strong enough to stop us. Zyra leaned on him, a quiet gesture of trust and partnership. The palace was safe, the empire stronger, and the galaxy had witnessed the hidden strength of humanity. Humans were no longer underestimated. They were a symbol of courage, intelligence, and resilience. And in that moment, under the twin suns of Andromeda and the stars above, Elias and Zyra knew that the future was theirs to shape. The human who had once been underestimated had revealed the true power of his species, and the queen who had doubted him now understood that strength came in many forms. The empire had survived, the galaxy had learned, and humanity had risen to its full potential, proving that courage, intelligence, and determination could triumph over even the greatest odds. For Elias, the human who had once seemed small and fragile, this was only the beginning. For Zyra, the queen who had ruled with power and wisdom, this was a new chapter in history. Together, they would lead the empire into a future where humans and aliens stood as equals, united by respect, trust, and the extraordinary strength of the human spirit. The story of the human who changed the empire, and the queen who recognized his true strength, would be told for generations, inspiring countless others to see that greatness is not measured by size or weaponry, but by courage, intelligence, and the will to rise above every challenge. And so, under the twin suns of Andromeda, the human and the queen stood together, ready to face the galaxy, united in purpose, and stronger than anyone had ever imagined.